Now, as important as these programs are, they do not and they should not take the place of a broader environment that promotes small business growth and fosters entrepreneurship. So let me turn my attention to policy issues for just a moment. When we, as leaders in the federal government, consider major issues, and obviously there are a lot of those around town, we have got to consider the impact that those issues have on the firms that employ half of our private sector workforce, create 2/3 of the new jobs in our economy, account for half of our non-farm GDP, account for almost 30% of our exports in this country, and who are leading incubators of innovation which make our country competitive. I am obviously talking about the small businesses in our country. We have got to ensure the right environment for small business, which is an environment that is friendly to business and encourages investment, encourages growth, and encourages hiring of people. For example, one of the most critical issues that is facing small business today and their employees is the growing cost of health care. Well, we have a broader issue, obviously, but specifically with small businesses, they pay more for health care than larger companies. They're prohibited from leveraging their buying power for lower rates, and they often don't have the same tax advantages as large companies. 70% of our uninsured workforce is employed by a small business or is a self-employed person. And for them, it's an issue of cost, and increasingly, and this is very important, small businesses are finding that they just can't afford it any longer. In addition, it's important for us to understand that every dollar a small business pays for higher health care is a dollar that's not going into investment. It's not going into expansion, and it's not going into job creation, because that is real money to the small business owner, and it is something that is crowding out a different decision. So, providing small businesses and their workers with flexible, affordable, market-driven solutions like association health plans, like giving them tax parity with large businesses, are important steps forward for our economy, as well as for expanding health coverage for all Americans. Another important issue, and I think this one is often off the radar screen for small business, another important issue is international trade. Exporting offers tremendous opportunities for small businesses, and I mentioned earlier they're almost 30% of U.S. exports now. Nonetheless, tariffs and other barriers to trade that are what I would say inconvenient and difficult for large companies often fully shut out small companies. And many of the existing trade arrangements that we have in place are much more favorable to the foreign countries than they are to the U.S. So in other words, if you're a U.S. exporter, you're facing higher tariffs and higher barriers than if you're an importer into the U.S. from the same country. The pending agreements with South America, Colombia, and Panama are all designed to level the playing field on tariffs for the benefit of U.S. exporters, as well as non-tariff barriers. And these are very important because they include things like intellectual property protections, excessive licensing and inspection requirements, burdensome paperwork, and also inconsistent operations or procedures at the borders when people are actually trying to get their goods into a foreign country. These FTAs will provide, I believe, an especially strong benefit for small businesses that don't have the resources to defend their products overseas or comply with excessive administrative burdens.